If you want a free tub of cashew cacao nut butter, and I mean a giant tub, like the size of my head, huge bucket, pail full of this chocolate spread, all you need to do is give this show a 5-star rating and review in whatever podcast app you listen in. So just to recap for my listeners, each month we are doing giveaways of some of my favorite products, and every month is a different item. And so every month you have a new chance of winning. This month, I am gifting someone Artisana Organics organic chocolate spread that literally tastes like Nutella, but so much healthier with 0 chemicals. And the ingredients are just organic cashews, organic coconut sugar, organic cacao powder, organic coconut MCT oil, and organic vanilla. That's it. Just give this podcast a 5-star rating and review. And every last episode of every month is where I will be announcing the winner. So don't miss those episodes because you may end up missing me announcing that you are the winner.
1 out of 4 women who go through IVF, they don't even check their partner's sperm, which is crazy to me. You're going down this extremely emotional, expensive route, and it could be that 50% is just optimizing sperm. It's 50-50. Hence, WeNatal. It takes 2 to make a baby.
For anyone trying to conceive now or planning to in the next year or 2, or even want kids in 5 or 10 years from now, or perhaps you're over 40 and lost hope in having children, this episode is exactly for you. So basically, if you're a woman, this is a must listen to because in today's interview, I sit down with Ronit and Vida, who are best friends and the co-founders of WeNatal, which is a prenatal supplement designed for not only the woman, but for their male partner as well. We myth bust a lot of fertility topics, such as improving your egg quality, the thought that it's only the woman's issue when it comes to fertility, conceiving after 40, and we even go over some, quote, health routines that may actually be hindering your egg and sperm quality and count. Many don't even realize that saunas, cold plunges, and other healthy lifestyle practices could actually be making it more difficult to conceive, like touching receipts. We also talk about not only what to avoid when trying to get pregnant, but also what foods to consume and other things to implement to support conception and a growing baby. And most importantly, this episode truly empowers and gives hope to any couple trying to get pregnant, even later in life and after several miscarriages. I think so many women feel just so alone in this journey and trying to just figure things out. And this interview could be the podcast episode that may turn things around for you. So I hope you enjoy it and it brings light to your day and overall life. You guys know this already, but you're listening to the Digest This podcast, and I'm your host, Bethany Cameron. Thank you guys so much. Today's episode, we have 2 guests, so this will be really fun. We have the founders of WeNatal, Ronit and Vida. I like to start off my podcast with rapid fire yes or no questions, and so you can only answer yes or no. Are you ready?
Ready. Love it.
Okay, first question. Is infertility only a women's issue?
No. Can I emphasize no on that one?
Yes.
Heck no.
Are women only born with the eggs they are given?
Yes. Shall I explain though why yes, but?
Okay.
Yes, but even though you're born with the eggs that you're born with, you can still improve your egg quality at any age. And that's one of our biggest messages because so many people feel like, okay, they were just dealt this hand when they were born. It's genetic. It's how, but actually diet and lifestyle can drastically improve egg quality, which in turn improves fertility outcomes.
Love it. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Let's dive right in or dive into that later. Okay. Next question. I had this down, and you just actually answered it. Can women improve their egg quality?
100% yes,
Yes.
yes.
All right. Oh, no, this is an interesting question. Can infrared saunas hinder sperm count?
Yes.
Mm, okay.
So, and we could talk about that too, because that's one, there are a lot of healthy things, quote unquote healthy, that can impact sperm negatively. So we could talk about that.
Yeah, I love it. Does frequent ejaculation increase sperm production?
No,
I know that's a myth going around. All
myth.
right, last question here. It's been said that men don't have a biological clock when it comes to fertility. Is that true?
False.
False. No, it's not true.
So I recently started seeing this new functional practitioner who is very well renowned, and she asked me to list all the supplements I was taking, and I mentioned I was taking Fatty 15. I already assumed, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to explain to her what Fatty 15 even is. But to my surprise, she knew right away what it was and was like, oh, good, keep taking that. And that just made me feel so good and affirmed my own research and decision as to what I was putting into my body, knowing that it was the best. I love sharing my personal stories when it comes to products I've been taking. And if you've been a listener for a while and follow me on Instagram, then you know how much I rave about Fatty 15. The fatty acid known as C15 is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years. And the best part is that it is 100% vegan. Fatty 15 is delivering the world's first pure science-backed C15 supplement and has 3 times the healthy aging cell benefits of omega-3 or fish oil. That is crazy, you guys. This fatty acid is derived from plants using a patented oxidation-resistant technology, resulting in a pure form of C15. It's vegan and contains no flavors, fillers, allergens, or preservatives. C15 is the only ingredient in Fatty 15, which I absolutely love that this company doesn't add anything else. It's 100% pure. Fatty 15 is also proven to resist oxidation factors both in and outside of the body and works in multiple ways. It repairs age-related damage to cells, protects from future breakdown, boosts mitochondria energy output, and activates pathways in the body that helps regulate our sleep, mood, and natural repair mechanisms for healthier aging overall. So whether you're vegan, don't like the taste of fish oil, or don't want to ingest rancid oils that are commonly found in fish oil supplements today, try Fatty 15 to help support and restore your long-term health. And who would I be without offering a discount to the Digest This community? So Fatty 15 has graciously given me the ability to offer you 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit. Just go to fatty15.com/digest and use code DIGEST at checkout. You can cancel anytime, by the way. That's fatty15.com/digest or use code DIGEST at checkout. I can't believe that we are now getting into fall, if not feeling like we are in fall already. And I love it, but it does come with some doom and shorter days, less sunlight. And I know we can all feel the depression and anxiety kind of kick in, some more than others. And if you're one that certainly notices a change in your mood when the cooler months come, I totally feel you. So, how do we combat this? Obviously, we want to be around people. I think diet and nutrition play a huge role, but I also think people overlook hydration. And studies have actually shown that when you are dehydrated, specifically when you don't have enough electrolytes, anxiety, depression, you might feel irritable, lightheaded, fatigued, having headaches, panic-like symptoms. These can all be signs of just low electrolytes. Also, flu season. As we get into the fall and winter months, a lot of people can get the flu and get ill. And then when we are sick, we do lose a lot of water and a lot of electrolytes. So I always recommend Element. I use the unflavored packs. I know a lot of people do prefer the flavored versions. Again, do what works for you. I like the unflavored, which is just 3 simple ingredients. There's no stevia, there's no natural flavors in their raw version. They do have other flavors. If you do need a little flavor or a little sweetness, they have that as well. And I'm always talking about it in my Instagram stories, but you can get a free sample pack. So if you haven't taken advantage of this offer, just go to drinkelement.com/digest to get this amazing offer. Again, that's DRINKLMNT.com/digest, and you can get a free 8 single-serve sample pack. Adding electrolytes is a great way to replenish and rebalance your entire body, mind, and mood. I hope you guys love them as much as I do. What's the most common misconception about fertility?
In my opinion, it's the 2 things that women are stuck with the eggs they have, and men can have kids till they're 100 and they're not affected in any way. They have no biological clock. And both of those are the biggest myths, in my opinion, in fertility. Ronit,
Yeah, so we can dive into those. So first of all, with men being part of the fertility equation, it's 50-50. And we know that when women experience recurrent miscarriages, it's 50% because of sperm quality. And, we'll dive into our personal story later on, but when we had miscarriages, we thought like, okay, well, it could be a little bit my partner's, sperm, but actually it's 50-50. And so that's a big message to your audience so that they know that if they're trying to conceive, it is very important for the partner to treat their body the way that you're treating your body if you're trying to conceive, because we know that women, when they're trying to have a baby, they start exercising, maybe they eat healthier, they clean up their diet, they focus on organic, but men should be doing exactly the same thing because sperm impacts fertility 50-50. And we know that in IVF cases, only there are actually 1 out of 4 women who go through IVF, they don't even check their partner's sperm, which is crazy to me. You're going down this extremely emotional, expensive route, and it could be that 50% is just optimizing sperm. But so that's one of our biggest PSA. It's 50-50, hence WeNatal. It takes 2 to make a baby.
I feel like a lot of people feel like it's just the woman's fault, and that's like a huge misconception.
Yeah, that was our finding, right? Like I experienced 2 miscarriages and pregnancy loss, and I went through a huge postpartum depression, really blaming myself and analyzing everything I ate and did, which a lot of women do. And it wasn't really until our second miscarriage, where we miscarried a week apart, that Ronit, working alongside amazing functional medicine practitioner, Dr. Mark Hyman, and was really looking at more the root cause, uncovered all this research about men's health. And so it is a big PSA. We feel like there is starting to be a little bit more spotlight around men's health and fertility. However, we're here to really educate consumers that it takes 2, and both partners need to level up, and both partners need to scrutinize the same way as in this kind of golden window of the preconception timeframe.
We see in our society men like, just celebrities out there, right? Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Mick Jagger are having babies in their 70s and 80s. So there is this perception that, okay, like a man can have a baby anytime. And while they're producing sperm towards, the later years of their lives, research actually shows that male fertility does decline with age. And in their mid-30s, men experience a 25% decline compared to men in their mid-20s. Also, we know that as paternal age increases, there's a greater likelihood of various chronic disease in baby. So that's kind of a big message in the sense that a lot of people are waiting to get married, both men and women. And so it's just kind of to bring awareness around the fact that you need to optimize your health, both if you're male or female, because actually a lot of the diet and lifestyle recommendations that we put forth can improve sperm quality, can reduce DNA fragmentation in sperm. And when you do those things, you're actually optimizing your fertility.
Yeah. Well, and regarding sperm count, are there home tests that you can do to like check sperm quality?
Yeah, definitely. And we feel like it's a great baseline for men to know their sperm quality, especially in a committed relationship. There are a ton of companies out there. One of them that we like is Legacy, where you can get an at-home kit, send them a report, then you send them your sperm, they send you a report. And in fact, before we launched WeNatal, we had a bunch of people on a beta test do this sperm testing before and after taking our men's prenatal. And they saw improvement in all parameters. And so when we talk about sperm parameters, we're looking not just at count, which a lot of people in the fertility space or who are in trying to conceive think about count, egg count, sperm count, but actually we have to look at other things like motility, how they swim, their shape, morphology, and a big one is DNA fragmentation, which can cause chromosomal abnormalities in babies. So you want to look for a sperm test that looks at all of those parameters.
I love that because I think just so many, again, just going back to the whole, it's the women's fault. You know, we really don't think about that. And you had mentioned men's prenatal. And I think that's really kind of like a new thing still. When you think of a prenatal, you think, well, that the women's taking it. But I love that you guys came up with a men's prenatal and hence the name WeNatal, which I think is so cute because it's for the man and the woman taking their supplements together. And I know they're kind of different, right? Because the man isn't taking the same nutrient supplement as the woman, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Correct.
And we could dive into what the formula looks like, but just from like a overall, what's going on in our global environment and why it is so important to focus on male fertility as a factor of just the global fertility issue that we're looking at is that there's a ton of research out there on sperm counts that have declined since the 70s. So essentially, men today have 50% less sperm compared to their grandfathers. And we see a decline in the acceleration. So since the 70s, each year, sperm counts have declined by 1%. Then since the year 2000, each year sperm counts have declined by 2.6%. And if that trend continues, sperm counts on average can reach zero by 2045. Now that's a big deal. 2045 is around the corner. And so there are a lot of factors that impact male fertility and sperm counts, but we also know on the flip side, sperm men have this amazing ability to regenerate sperm on an ongoing basis. It's called spermatogenesis, and every day men are regenerating sperm. So essentially, when you think about your sperm now, has actually been made 3 months ago. So men are constantly making sperm. And in fact, every second, a man is making 1,500 sperm, which is like kind of wild to think about compared to like us women, which it is true. We are born with the eggs that we're born with, but they have this like amazing dynamic ability to constantly regenerate sperm, which means they have this tremendous ability to impact their sperm quality. And it's a lot easier for them to impact their sperm quality compared to women. Yes, you can improve your egg quality, but they are actually making new sperm. So that's why we got into this business. And then actually, initially, our concept was a prenatal for men. There was nothing on the market that was targeting men. And we were like, why isn't anybody talking about this? We have spoken to so many of our friends. No, none of the men that we knew were doing anything different when their partner, they were trying to like have a baby. And we always say, we are trying to have a baby, but where's the we? So we're kind of putting the we in having a baby. And yeah, I think there's alarming stats around male fertility. And by the way, it's not just sperm counts, it's testosterone, it's erectile dysfunction, it's testicular cancer. There's definitely a lot going on with male reproduction. And we're seeing the same thing in animals. So veterinarians are actually seeing the same trend in sperm decline in dogs. So there's definitely something that's going on with our environment. And some people say, or some researchers, not people, Dr. Shauna Swan, who put out this amazing book called Countdown, talks about the plastics in our environment and how the plastics are impacting sperm counts, specifically BPA and phthalates. And so that's kind of like a big deal. And then, we are seeing a similar decline in female fertility. Not, I would say, like, not as drastic as what we're seeing with sperm counts, but we are seeing women today less fertile. 1 out of 4 pregnancies in women end in pregnancy loss and miscarriage. And overall, when you're looking at the couple as a whole, when we started working on WeNatal in 2020, 1 out of 8 couples were struggling with infertility. Then last year, the World Health Organization put out research saying that 1 out of 6 couples are struggling with infertility. And if you go on the CDC website right now, they say that 1 out of 5 Americans are struggling with infertility. So these are staggering stats, and it's impacting everyone around us.
I mean, it is. It's shocking. And I know you had mentioned by 2045, sperm count will be 0. And I've heard that too. And I think that a lot of people don't realize what's happening or maybe what they're doing that's perhaps hindering their fertility. And I mean, I know so many people and they're doing all the right things. They're trying to get pregnant. And then of course you see these, 19-year-olds, they're getting pregnant and not even trying. You're like, wait a minute, what the heck? They don't want the baby and I do, and I'm trying to. So you see this dynamic, but you had mentioned earlier about, things that we could be doing for our health, like healthy, quote, healthy things like the sauna, for example, that are perhaps hindering our chances to get pregnant. And so I'd love for you to elaborate on that and what those things are.
Yeah. So first of all, regarding people who are getting pregnant like that, anytime I talk to any of our WeNatal customers who are so frustrated because they do all the things, and we could talk about what all the things are, and they're not getting pregnant. And then they're like, oh, my friend who eats McDonald's and doesn't exercise and got pregnant. And
drinks once a week. Yeah.
And I think it's really important to say, you don't know. Yeah, somebody could get pregnant and they can have a baby, but you don't actually know how healthy that baby is. And I think with us at WeNatal, we talk about these diet and lifestyle changes that you can make in the preconception timeframe, because you want to create an optimal baby. You're not just getting pregnant. You're not just having a baby. You are giving somebody their entire life, their blueprint for life. So you want to be able to give them the best quality sperm and the best quality egg. to live and thrive. When we're looking at kids nowadays, so many of them have allergies, eczema, metabolic dysfunction. You could see that children are actually not that healthy out there. So we're all about, I think if somebody is struggling and their friends are not doing everything that they're doing, and it's just an important reminder to say, okay, I am doing all the right things and my time will come and I will have the optimal baby for me.
Yeah, I just want to chime in because I think we're not talking about how stressed we all are and how we think we're doing all the right things, but maybe we're not prioritizing movement, eating healthy. I know for 20 years, worked at Nike in the wellness space in my corporate career. I thought in quotes that I was healthy. I thought I was living a wellness lifestyle, but the reality was I was sitting for way too many hours. I was not going outdoors, getting fresh light, fresh air. At that time, I didn't know the value of good supplementation. So I was not supplementing, thinking, I'm just young, I'm healthy, I don't need it. And also, my stress was probably peaking every day. I now realize I had adrenal fatigue, but I was in fight or flight mode every single day. And your body cannot prioritize conception when you're that stressed. And sometimes, I guess, back to my point, like we think we're okay, but we're so stressed about trying to conceive. We're so stressed about the diagnosis, the people telling us we're infertile, we'll never have kids. I'm sorry, you have unexplained infertility. There's so many things, or like, I'm sorry you had a miscarriage. It happens a lot. Just keep trying. There's so many misnomers that it messes with your head, if I'm honest, and it adds to your stress levels in this important time frame. And so whether you adopt, movement is very healthy. Some people like to meditate. Some people like mindful breath work. You have to find a practice that works for you. And that's also why outside of supplementation, we created a journal, because we wanted to give our community tools for gratitude, for mental health, for partners, questions to discuss with your partners before trying to conceive. So we have made a WeNatal journal for this exact purpose, but the reality is we're more stressed than we've ever been. And have you ever heard the stories? And I have a lot in my family where they were told they're infertile or they'll never have kids. They got a surrogate, and then when they weren't even trying, the stress was off. They had a baby naturally. Or there's so many examples where, so I just want everyone to know that there's like the mind and body are super connected. There's more research coming out about the physiological state between the two of them and how one affects the other. So we need to not separate our body and say, like, I'm doing this for my mind and this for my body. It's all connected. And the more you can do all the right things for your body and mind, you'll be attacking it together.
I am going to cut to the chase and tell you that Peak Tea's Radiant Skin Duo is on special right now. Just laying it out there because, as most of you know, I am a huge fan of Peak Life Tea's crystals and all of their matcha black teas and tropical powder teas. I drink them on the regular. So I feel like I'm just doing an injustice if I didn't tell you about this amazing sale right now. I seriously love all their tea crystals and the fact that they do not use any toxic tea bags, which can contaminate your tea and your drink in general just by having the chemicals that are in the bags leach into what you're consuming. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but a lot of tea bags, if not all, are just toxic. But Peak Life, all their products are tea bag free, and their products are certified organic. They are triple toxin screened for heavy metals, pesticides, and mold. And I don't know if you knew this either, but a lot of tea companies are now adding natural flavors to their teas. And we all know from my viral Instagram video showing how natural flavors aren't actually natural at all. They're actually made in a lab and are added to products to make you more addicted to that product you're consuming. Natural flavors, toxins, and chemicals are hijacking our taste buds and disrupting our endocrine system and gut health. So again, that's why I love Peak Tea, because they don't use any of that, and they do rigorous testing to make sure all their teas are free from toxins and mold. And if you're looking for a coffee alternative, Peak has a blend called Chaga Energy Elixir, which is 100% caffeine free, yet still gives you energy without the jitters and can even provide a calmness at the same time. But if you're looking for a deal, check out their website because they are always having specials. And so I really encourage you to go check out what's on sale right now, especially their Radiant Skin Duo. And if you're not sure if you're going to like any of their teas, they have a free return policy within 30 days. So if you try something and you're not happy with it, just send it back like what you didn't use and they'll just give you a refund. I mean, I just love that about this company, that they just want you to be happy and satisfied. So if you go to peaklife.com/digest, you can receive up to 15% off plus up to 2 free gifts. Again, that's peaquelife.com/digest. peaklife.com/digest. All right, you guys. So I have been making these special gummies and I have to give you the recipe. So get a pen and write this down. These gummies are so addicting and all you need are 3 main ingredients. They're not only good for the gut, but they can also help aid in hair growth, immune function, skin health, and they taste like a creamy ice cream pop you literally can just pop in your mouth. And all this is from the colostrum I add. So if you haven't guessed by now, these are creamy colostrum milk gummies that literally are like a pillow in your mouth. You can add a touch of honey if you want, or keep them 100% sugar-free for all my keto and low-carb friends. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about Armor Colostrum over and over by now, and for good reason. It's been clinically shown to help guard against inflammation and everyday toxins and pollutants. Colostrum intake has also been linked to fewer respiratory tract and GI infections in children and adults. In fact, there are over 5,000 published studies documenting the benefits of colostrum and its ability to optimize health from when we are born all the way through our elder years. But Armor Colostrum is different from others on the market, and it's something I started taking back in March 2023, long before all the hype. They use a proprietary cold chain biopotent technology that distills over 200 functional nutrients, guaranteeing the highest bioactive integrity and bioavailability. Another thing I personally love about this company is that they only use the excess colostrum from grass-fed, pasture-raised, happy cows that are no longer needing it to supply their young. So you are not taking away from animals that need it. Only the surplus colostrum is used, and Armra makes sure they are getting only the best from healthy USA cows from family farms. Okay, so here's the creamy colostrum gummy recipe. Just get 2 tablespoons of grass-fed gelatin, 1 cup of your milk of choice, dairy or non-dairy, 1 tablespoon of honey, which is optional, and 1 tablespoon of Armra Colostrum's unflavored grass-fed colostrum. And you can save 20% if you use code DIGEST at checkout on their website. It's tryarmra.com. Again, that's code DIGEST, and that will save you 20%. So what you're going to do with the ingredients is first you're going to pour the milk into a small saucepan, sprinkle the gelatin over the top and allow it to bloom for 5 minutes. If you're using honey, you're going to add that now, and then you're also going to add Armra Colostrum to the pan. You're going to bring it to a medium heat while whisking. Just be sure not to boil it, just a medium heat. Now, once the milk is slightly warmed and everything is dissolved, just remove the pan from the heat and pour into any mold of choice or a glass dish. Then place the dish or the molds into the fridge for at least 2 hours or until set. Once set, just pop the gummies out into an airtight container and then then you're just going to return it to the fridge to store it. If you are using one large dish, then you can cut them into squares or whatever shape you prefer. If you haven't tried Armor Colostrum by now, here's your chance. You can save 20%. Just go to tryarmra.com and use code DIGEST to receive a special discount for my podcast listeners. That's tryarmra.com and use code DIGEST. Again, that's tryarmra.com and use code DIGEST at checkout. Yeah, that's a great point, Vida. And you hit the nail on the head, because I feel like a lot of my listeners know, even with digestive issues, stress can cause tons of digestive issues. You can eat the same thing and one day you're stressed and the other day you're not. You're like, oh my gosh, this flared up my gut, but it was the same food. It was just because you were stressed. So that point, and I've also heard those stories where people were like, oh, we just stopped trying, whatever, forget it. And then they got pregnant. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge factor.
Yeah, actually, interesting story is I have one of our advisors, Bridget Tigemeyer, was staying with me this week because we had a product launch, and she was looking at some of my labs. And even though I have been in the last 3 months, like taking like supplements religiously, doing literally everything possible for my health, she was shocked to see that all of my gut markers and actually like my nutrients have declined. And my, just not to like get into this like sad story about myself right now, but my dad had passed away in March, and she was like, I don't understand, like you're taking all the supplements, you're doing all the things. And then we will realize it's probably just like the stress. When you're stressed out, you're not absorbing the foods. You could be buying the best supplements. You could be buying WeNatal and not absorbing them. So it's really important to find that like center in your life and just in the day to day, even in hard times.
No, well, I'm so sorry to hear about your father. I mean, losing a loved one is definitely a stressful time for sure. And again, I can attest to that too. I've had some people pass away and close family, and, you know, we moved and all these things, and I didn't really change my diet, right? I didn't alter anything, but I did notice, I was like, I don't think I'm absorbing food like I was last month or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's very important. And that's why we're so passionate talking about the mind-body connection. But then I think there's like so many other things that we talk about and focus on when we come to like talking about the solution. But really, before we get into the solution, it's important to think about what is the cause of this kind of infertility and fertility decline that we're seeing in today's environment. And when we think about this modern world that we're living in, we're really living in a toxic soup with toxins that didn't exist 50 years ago. We have toxins in our food, water, air, personal care products, home products, none of which existed 50 years ago. 70% of Americans' calories are coming from ultra-processed foods. So that is a big one. These processed foods are made in a factory. And our regular food, our fruits and veggies, are depleted of nutrients because of modern agriculture. We're stressed, as Vida said. We're not sleeping as well, and we're spending most of our days inside. So much has changed in the last 50 years, but everything that has changed is actually paralleling what we're seeing in fertility. So when it comes to kind of the solution, we can look at, okay, how can we, I think like for us, the biggest solution is actually taking the time as a couple to invest in the preconception timeframe. So what is preconception? The 3 to 6 months before you're trying to conceive. And again, we talked about how we're getting married later in life, we're having kids later in life. So a lot of times, like, you're like, okay, I'm 37, I want to have a baby right now. But I think it's very important to invest, take the time, even though you feel like you're running out of time, take the time to improve your fertility. And here's how. We talk about fertility boosters and fertility blockers. So first thing, let's remove those fertility blockers. And those are environmental toxins, the ones that you're exposed with in your home. So in your kitchen, the plastics, the Teflons, in your personal care products, any kind of non-clean personal care products. And we're actually putting up a clean product resource on our website right now, but there's so many great clean brands out there that you can find through the Environmental Working Group or through apps like Think Dirty. And the cleaning products, they're great cleaning products out there. So that's kind of like your home environment.
What about like all this radiation, like 5G and the internet and like all that,
Yeah, that's also a lot. And we've found that, that's just kind of, I think it's very easy to go down this rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, everything around me is broken. I need to fix everything. And I think there are some things that we can control, and there are other things that we cannot control. And so cell phones are not going away. But you can use wire headphones instead of the AirPods.
Yeah.
There are little things that you could do, and those little things really add up. You could turn off your Wi-Fi at night.
Not put your laptop on your lap.
And the guy's pocketing the phone, which is close to, there's a lot without our control, right? The air we breathe, all that. And so we more want to empower people on like the small choices they make one by one. It doesn't, like Ronit said, it doesn't have to be all at once. When you run out of something, find a better, cleaner version. When do it gradually, because it can quickly become overwhelming to think like everything in my house is toxic, everything I've been using, everything in my kitchen, my bathroom, all my electronics. So,
and by the way, that becomes very stressful.
So that's
exactly. Yeah, I know. Exactly. It's like, okay, it's like a catch-22 here.
Totally. We want to shed optimism that there's a lot without our control. The air we breathe, the world we live in, and unfortunately, there's cell phones and technology are a way of the future. However, the small changes we can make in our everyday life and the choices we make of what we eat, what we drink, the air we breathe in our home. So there's the fertility boosters, things that you're doing in your everyday life. Water. Do you have a really great water filtration system in your house, or a delivery system like Mountain Valley or something in glass? Clean air. We learned that actually the air in our house is more toxic than the air outside. So open some windows, get some plants that give you oxygen. There's little steps that you could do. We also love we have air doctors in our house, but we love great air filtration systems. We want to ensure that the small changes we make in our everyday life can have a big boosting effect on our overall health and fertility, which are hand in hand.
And then I would say like a couple big ones is the food that we're eating. So we talked about ultra processed foods. So obviously eating real food, we encourage cooking at home, because when you're cooking at home, you know what you're eating. And really a lot of the research around fertility is the Mediterranean diet, which is colorful fruits and veggies. Our advisor, Bridget, talks about like getting all the colors of the rainbow, including these antioxidant rich foods that will stay in your cutting board, like beets and blueberries, and also nuts and seeds and olive oil, healthy fats. Fat is very important for fertility because it's the backbone of our hormones. And
you have some delicious ingredients on your Instagram. I was so hungry looking at some of your very clean. So it's also not about like depriving yourself and living life and having joy too. Like you have some favorites, right? Like brownies and cookies, but simple ingredients, good quality ingredients. And that goes back to cooking at home. You know what you're putting in it. And nowadays, there's such good substitutes for the old things that we used to love, cleaner versions.
Even if it's not ultra processed, I think people overlook sugar because
it's a huge one.
They're doing everything at home, but they're adding a cup of sugar or whatever to their brownies. And it's like, okay, you just don't know how much sugar you're putting into your body. And it goes kind of back to like blood sugar regulation, which I'm sure we could talk about and all that.
That blood sugar regulation is a big one for fertility. We know that the number one cause of infertility in women is PCOS, which 1 out of 10 women have. And kind of it's a complex hormonal issue, but the fundamental of it is blood sugar dysregulation. And so I would say in regards to food, one big thing that women and men can do is really balance their blood sugar and eat blood sugar balancing meals. And then the other thing about sugar is, yeah, you could also avoid adding sugar to your food, but there's so much hidden sugar in ketchup and condiments and salad dressing. So, it's like you don't need to use, packaged salad dressing. You can use a little bit olive oil and lemon and sea salt and balsamic. So I think it's just being mindful of that. And then the other thing is moving and exercising, but not overdoing, because there's also a place of like over exercising. And then another big one is sleep. And I think sleep is kind of this super important for overall health, but especially fertility. Sleep is when your body is naturally repairing itself and detoxifying on a daily basis. And I am all about sleep. Our entire team actually has an Aura ring. We bought it for them last year, and we're obsessed with optimizing sleep. So I think that's a big one.
Sleep is
And
also one I would say that's underrated. Like we're all going to bed later. We're all looking at screens, right? Phones and screens right before bed, which, sometimes we're having a glass of wine. Whatever your habit is, you realize that these habits, once you get something like an Oura ring or there's tons of wearables where you can track, you'll start to realize things that might wake you up, things that will keep you up. I know very much one of my joys in life is coffee. I know if I have it later in the day, it's going to affect my sleep. And by really knowing your body, these tools like the Oura ring are such amazing tools that allow us to say like, okay, if I stretch past 10 p.m., I know I'm going to get a worse night's sleep. If I have the coffee past this or time, and you'll start to learn these rhythms. It's actually really fun, and not to stress you out, more to empower you to say like, okay, like these are the choices I can make to really empower myself and my body. And for the screens, I know we're not going to stop looking at our phones or scrolling at night, but I've purchased these red blue blocking glasses. They're specific for nighttime. I have a different one for daytime because I am on screens way too much. And so like, again, you can still do the things you love, just find some ways to enhance it, or you can tune down the artificial lighting at night in your house and buy red light bulbs. And so there's small things you can do. And there's even settings on the iPhone that will at nighttime put it into that like red screen. So small tips, but what I've learned, because I have major sleep issues and I realized sleep is the real foundation to your overall health. And by fixing my sleep, I was feeling so much better. So here for any and all tidbits, but I want to say it's underrated and it's so important.
That's huge. Yeah, I love those glasses, and then the red at night on the phone. I have that, and it's super helpful. I wish they would do that to TVs. I wish there was like a
filter. That's why
filter for the
I want to
TV.
watch a show at night. I throw on those glasses, and I feel like it does affect my sleep, because if you're getting all that artificial light, it's kind of telling your brain, it's daytime or maybe. So it could you could fall asleep, but it could wake you up in the middle of the night, and it kind of just affects your circadian rhythm.
Right. And I know right now we're kind of just talking about things that hinder, fertility or things like that. I just also wanted to add, I know people should think about their laundry soap as well, because you're literally wearing that. Mm-hmm. And also maybe people still don't realize receipts, right?
Yeah. Well, the receipts have a super high amount of BPA. And so honestly, I'm the type of person that when I go to the market and I go to Costco, I actually tell the cashiers, like, you should be wearing gloves when you're handling.
I love it. Yeah.
Because I feel so bad for them. They're handling these receipts all day long and it goes straight into your bloodstream. So receipts are a big one. And so it's just being mindful about those little things. And then just as far as other very common behaviors. We all live in California. We know that things like marijuana are legal here. But just because it's legal, just because it's common, doesn't mean that it's safe. And I would take like this big bucket of toxic behaviors and say, like, all of those, when you're trying to conceive, need to go out the window.
What about CBD?
I'm not sure about CBD. I don't know if there's like a ton of research around CBD, but I definitely know that cannabis and smoking and vaping and binge drinking is associated with not just issues with fertility, but also worse outcomes in children. So, for example, there was a study that looked at binge drinking, which is 5 drinks at the time of conception. So, men actually, so this is for the men out there, men who drank 5 drinks at the time of conception showed more glucose intolerance in their offspring. So, this stuff matters. And I think, yes, if you want to have an occasional glass of wine, an occasional drink, that's fine to do. And again, everybody makes their own decisions. But the truth is if I were trying to conceive, I wouldn't touch any alcohol or anything that's kind of under my control that I would say like is toxic.
Okay. And I feel like we're so far in the podcast, I feel like it's all been like doom and gloom. So I do want to talk about, some things to help fertility. But before we do, I feel like a really good transition, what it would be for Vida to kind of share her story about your fertility, because I think everyone should know.
Yeah.
And yours too.
They're intertwined. So we met in our corporate careers and we're best friends. We were single around the same time, got married around the same time. And before I ever had children, Ronit was pregnant with her first and we were best friends. I got so excited that shortly after her, I got pregnant and actually even made it past the first trimester and told all our friends and family. And we went in for, I think it was the 14-week appointment. It was the most horrible situation. There was no heartbeat and we experienced miscarriage and pregnancy loss. And I mean, devastated doesn't even cut it. At the time I was loss of words. I was so flustered and literally asked my doctor, like, why does this happen? Why is this happening to us, to me? And he really dismissed it. He's like, it's very common. It happens quite a bit. I'm so sorry. Just keep trying. You're lucky you even got pregnant. I mean, like he said things that were and he's a great doctor. Let me just tell you, I love him. He delivered both of my children in the end, but it was just a very dismissive culture of like, it just happened. And
very insensitive.
Being my best friend, she consoled me, and she was also working alongside Dr. Mark Hyman, huge practitioner in the functional medicine space. And she really encouraged me to check out. But like I said, I thought I was healthy. I was working in the wellness space. I was working out. But she encouraged me to take a deeper look at things like my thyroid, things that I wasn't even considering. And once I did, I uncovered that I had Hashimoto's. I had a severe, autoimmune thing once I got on the medicine and also started taking supplements that she bought me as a true best friend. I was able to conceive my daughter, Dahlia, about a year later. I definitely gave my body the chance to recover. I did the things. And if I'm honest, like he was checking all the labs and they just kept saying, you're normal, you're normal. It's within range. But what I also learned is you have to be your own advocate. I knew I was like fatigued on most days. I knew I was drinking like 10 cups of coffee at the corporate office. I knew I wasn't maybe like at my optimal levels. And you have to be your own advocate. And just because it's normal doesn't mean it's optimal. So I uncovered that I had Hashimoto's. I took the medicine and it transformed me. I was clearer, mental focus. I felt like I had more energy. And so long story short, we went on to have a healthy baby girl. And in 2020, Ronit and I had miscarriages a week apart. So it was my second one and her first. And I was just kind of preconditioned to think this happens and it's common. And I really wasn't willing to do anything but blame myself. And I want your audience to hear this because a lot of women take on the whole burden of fertility. And unfortunately, when there's loss, also take on that burden alone. And it's not the case.
Wow. So yeah. And how old were you at that time?
On the second miscarriage, I think I was 38. I had my second child at 39. Yeah.
And I think sort of like the glimmer of positivity here for your audience is that I was 41 when I had my miscarriage, but then I gave birth to Emma at the age of 42 and I conceived naturally, and Vida same. So after we had our miscarriages a week apart, we started to learn all about this golden window of opportunity called the preconception window. And we invested in our preconception health, and our husbands invested in their preconception health. So we did it together. And for me, I decided, even though I was 41, I was like, okay, 3 months, I'm going to give my body a break. I'm going to give my time to recover. I put my husband on all the supplements. We both took, on top of the prenatal that we were taking, which, wasn't the best prenatal. We added a few things to it, but we also added CoQ10, NAC, alpha lipoic acid, all of these nutrients that improve egg quality, which are actually in our new product, Egg Quality Plus. And 3 months later, I was pregnant at first try with Emma. And I have a funny story around it. I took a pregnancy test and threw it in the trash because I looked at it. It didn't look positive. I threw it in the trash. And my husband found it the next day. And he was like, this is a positive pregnancy test. And I was like, no way, no, it can't be. You have this narrative from society telling you like, you're old and you can't have babies. And I believed it. And then I was shocked when I actually had this positive pregnancy test. And Emma's now 3.5. And she has a little bestie, Vita's daughter, Davina, who's 3.
Yep.
And so I think like our biggest PSA is that there is so much you could do to improve your fertility at any age. Vida and I, with WeNatal, yes, our brand is a prenatal supplement brand, and because we feel like there is a lot that you could do, but really like taking a supplement is probably the easiest thing that you could do, at least like as a starting point to build your nutrient reserves, to improve your egg quality, to improve your sperm quality, to support your hormone production. Of course, you can't supplement your way out of a bad diet and lifestyle. You have to do all the other things, but at the very least, taking a prenatal is something that's essential for everybody who's trying to conceive. But really beyond the prenatal, we're all about empowering and putting out education and content. We have a preconception guide. If your listeners want to go to wenatal.com/guide, they get our 9 tips that dive into our favorite air filters and water filters and like it sounds very overwhelming, how to go about kind of making these lifestyle changes in a way that's manageable.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of your stories are very empowering, and I love that you can share that and you're using that now to help others with WeNatal.
What was interesting also in my story, when I had my first loss, really thought I was alone. Like I didn't think anyone around me. And once I started to share my story, coworkers came out and told me, my own mother shared that she had multiple losses. Like it just became something that back then, at least in my culture, people swept under the rug and kind of just moved on and didn't share. And I've found so much healing in sharing my story and helping women know that they're not alone and there's so much they can do. And so I would encourage, one, we're here as community for anyone who's experienced any type of hardship. But also there is some healing in sharing and, creating community around whatever you're going through. And that's also why WeNatal was born, because it was a community we wished we had.
I love it so much. Now, I know that we had talked about egg quality at the very beginning of the podcast. So what can a woman do to help improve her egg quality?
So I think first, to kind of understand like what they could do, I think it's important to understand what happens before you ovulate. So it takes about 100 days for your eggs to mature before ovulation. And within those 100 days, there's actually a lot that you could do to make sure that you're creating optimal eggs. So we talk about egg quality, we talk about quality over quantity. And so, and the reason why egg quality is important is because you want to make sure that there are no chromosomal abnormalities in the egg before it matures. And in order to ensure that the egg doesn't have chromosomal abnormalities, you want to kind of feed the powerhouses of the cell, which is the mitochondria. So mitochondria is the energy and the powerhouse, almost like the battery of the cell. And as your egg is maturing, there's a process called meiosis where the chromosomes split. And that takes a lot of energy. And so if you are kind of focusing on improving your mitochondria, then you have more power to kind of ensure that there won't be as many chromosomal abnormalities as there could if you have kind of low mitochondria or mitochondrial dysfunction. So some key nutrients that support mitochondria are CoQ10, PQQ, and then you have other antioxidants that reverse oxidative stress, because the other thing that impacts egg quality is oxidative stress. So L-carnitine, alpha lipoic acid, those are nutrients that help reverse or slow down oxidative stress. And so those are very important things. So we created Egg Quality Plus, which is essentially a combination of these nutrients, and it's really mitochondrial support and a very strong antioxidant. And we recommend taking it at least 3 months before conception to support that 100-day window. And so that's egg quality. As far as the prenatal, there are also nutrients in the prenatal that help support egg quality. But why a prenatal is important is because if you take a prenatal in advance, a lot of women start taking a prenatal once they get a positive pregnancy test. But it's important to take it in advance because you want to build those nutrient reserves that are crucial for fetal development. And you want to make sure that a lot of times when you get not a lot of times, every time, by the time you get a positive pregnancy test, a lot of the neural tubes have already closed. A lot of the kind of foundations of the baby's brain has already developed. So you want to make sure that you're getting the folate and all of the B vitamins before you get this positive pregnancy test. So that's why taking a prenatal preconception before you conceive is crucial. So I think like at WeNatal, Vida and I often talk about preconception so much that people reach out to us and say, okay, now I'm pregnant. Should I keep taking your prenatal? And it's like, yes, of course. But we are so focused on the preconception because it's really the foundation and the backbone of your pregnancy. You want to make sure that you're creating an environment where your fetus and future baby will thrive.
Some people have even mentioned like, oh, I'm not even trying to get pregnant. I mean, maybe this is going through, deaf ears, but they just start taking a prenatal and they're like, I just feel so much better. Like my hair is growing. Like I just have energy. Like they're not even trying. They just were like, it was kind of a multivitamin for me,
We think it's super smart. Many of our medical advisors actually recommend if you're in that childbearing age, if you're in a committed relationship, it is a very great idea. Also, 50% of pregnancies are unplanned. So if you're building those nutrient reserves, it's going to only benefit you in the long run. And also, like, we should all be on a great supplement, a great multi. And our food system, even if you're eating clean, organic, top of the line food, our food system and our soils are depleted of the nutrients that like our grandparents had. So even with the best diet, supplementation is only going to boost your nutrient reserves, which I think is crucial for all of us.
For sure. And then what about when should a woman stop taking a prenatal, like after nursing, or is it kind of just individualized?
I think that's such a great question because a lot of times the baby comes and then like mom forgets to take care of herself. And we know now that postpartum depletion can stay around for about 7 years and can impact, your overall health, your mood, depression. And so we always say definitely for the time that you're nursing, but probably at least a year postpartum, because you just created a human. It takes a lot out of you. Baby will take what it needs out of you, and you want to make sure that you're repleting your body with key nutrients. We know that giving birth is and even pregnant is a very your body needs more iron. It needs certain nutrients. So I would say like at least a year postpartum. And it's very important to keep taking care of yourself, keep taking a prenatal as if you're pregnant in the postpartum.
Good point. You know what? I just realized too, I think I asked this question and I think we just went down a really good rabbit hole nonetheless. But what were the quote healthy things that we're doing that are hindering our fertility? I feel like did we dive into that?
Not really.
Okay.
I would say one thing on the men's side. Let's talk about men for a second.
Okay.
Two things on the men's side is exposure to heat. So the testicles are outside of the body for a reason. Sperm does not like heat. And even the smallest change in temperature can reduce sperm counts. So things like sauna, which we know are crucial for detox, and they're really great for cardiovascular health and even like your, body composition and everything like that. During the preconception timeframe, saunas, hot tubs are pretty much a no-no. And the other one is a lot of men who are on testosterone replacement therapy should know that if they're on TRT, their body is not producing sperm anymore. So if you are on TRT and you want to have a baby, you should at least take a year off of it, because it takes about a year for your body to start creating sperm again. So people think like, oh, I'm taking testosterone. That's so like masculine. I'm going to be more fit. I'm going to have more muscle. But that is completely diminishes your sperm counts.
Okay.
Another one that I found shocking, and I know Ronit did as well, when we were uncovering research about fertility and fertility hacks, a lot of people don't talk about your oral hygiene related to fertility. It was like just that, again, we're treating everything separately. So we don't really think of the body as a whole. But what we found is actually you need a healthy oral microbiome to have a healthy mouth. And that overall affects not only your fertility, but like the health of your offspring if you're pregnant. And so researchers found on average that women with gum disease took 2 months longer to conceive than women without it. There was also the link, like I mentioned, during pregnancy. And so some habits that could be, you think are healthy, like mouthwash, some of them are destroying your gut and your biome. So you want to make sure you're researching and doing a clean toothpaste, because even that you're ingesting a lot of it. So there's a lot of like little life hacks that we found. And also I want to dispel the myth that like fertility is not an isolated case. Overall health for men and women is directly linked to your fertility. So even if your listeners are not trying to conceive, it is important to be prioritizing all these habits that we said, removing toxins, because if you want to be a healthy, thriving individual, these tips are great whether you're trying to conceive or not.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like who wants to, if you're like, oh, I'm not trying to conceive, I'm just going to continue using this toxic, toothpaste, eat toxic food and just feel like crap.
Exactly. And like you can do it when you're younger, and I feel like it doesn't affect you as much in your high school, college years. You can eat all the junk. But as you get older, you realize every kind of thing you ingest, everything kind of matters and you feel it more. And so I wish I knew more at a younger age to kind of impact my lifelong health. But every day is, a new chance to kind of make change.
Yeah. And so what about for women? I know, Ronit, you were talking about men specifically that like quote healthy things that are hindering our fertility. What about women? Anything that pops up?
Yeah, I think one of them is over exercising. If you have certain things that are stressors on the body, I would even go down the route and say like cold plunging. I know that there's a big cold plunge trend happening, at least here in LA. And there's and that's a stressor on the body. And it's great to kind of bring in these hormetic stressors because it creates resilience. But if you're trying to conceive, you really want to limit those stressors on the day to day and really focus on rest and recover. Because if your body is stressed, like Vida talked about and shared, it's not going to prioritize reproduction. I think also, over exercising and HIIT training, they're great. But if you feel depleted afterwards, and your body, if you feel great afterwards, great. But if you feel depleted, sometimes like if I'm overstressed in life and I go do a workout, I feel amazing after. But other times I just feel like, I'm so dead. I can't do like one more thing today. Then that means that the workout is too much for you.
For sure. Yeah. What's your opinion on raw milk, runny egg yolks, and sushi when women are pregnant?
Oh gosh, that's like a loaded question. I would say that most foodborne illnesses are not actually coming from those things. They're coming from cut fruit, they're coming from romaine lettuce. So I think that's another myth. However, in regards to sushi, in regards to raw milk and eggs, it's all about the quality too. So you just have to make sure that you're getting them from good sources. I would just say personally, with my first, I did not eat sushi when I was pregnant. With my second, I did. Here and there, like really good sources. But again, that's one that people should talk to with their doctor and make sure that, their doctor agrees with that. But I definitely think that as far as like foodborne illnesses, and people should be more wary of cut fruit and salads at restaurants, romaine lettuce, because if you look at the news, what are all the recalls that we're always hearing about?
Yeah, I know.
It's literally romaine lettuce. Vida had a
Lettuce,
functional medicine
vegetables.
doctor that told her she never touches romaine lettuce ever. So I would say,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I feel like a lot of people with IBS just stay away from lettuce in general, at least I do, for the most part. But yeah, really good point. And so I know we've talked about like some offenders regarding food, but what are some top nutrients from food? Like what are food items that we should actually be consuming that maybe could help? Like egg yolks, for example. Like what are the top?
Egg yolks are amazing because they contain choline. And choline is a nutrient that is crucial for baby brain development. And in fact, in our prenatal, we have 400 milligrams of choline because we know that the average American woman is consuming 165 milligrams of choline a day. And the research shows that if you're pregnant, you need 450 milligrams. If you're breastfeeding, you need 550 milligrams. But if you're not eating eggs, it's really hard to get to that number. So eggs is a big one, and we're all about the egg yolks. I'm still shocked when I see egg whites on a menu, and you will see it even here in California. They didn't get the memo about the egg yolks yet.
Apparently, yeah. What are they doing with all the yolks?
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. Give them to me. I'll take them.
Right?
If it's pasture raised and organic. I would say egg yolks. Like I shared earlier, the healthy fats like olive oil in your diet is super important. Of course, like avoiding inflammatory fats, that like seed oils, that's a no-no, but incorporating a good quality olive oil in your diet is important. The antioxidant rich foods. So within WeNatal for him and for her, we have antioxidants like vitamin E, vitamin C, and within food sources, you look at pomegranate seeds, you're looking at blueberries, of course, like any sort of like citrus fruit, but of eating it as a whole fruit, not like as a juice.
Okay. And you put all that in the female WeNatal, correct?
Yes.
What's
And
the
in the men's and in the men's.
Okay. So I guess my question now is you have a men's prenatal and a women's prenatal. What is the biggest distinction between the two and why are they different?
Yeah, so the women's prenatal has 24 key nutrients that are supportive of fertility, building nutrient reserves, supporting fetal baby development during each trimester. So it's like a kind of a multivitamin on steroids for before, during, and after pregnancy. The men's prenatal is more similar to our Egg Quality Plus product. It has CoQ10 and NAC that support mitochondria in men, but it also is a multivitamin and has a full spectrum B vitamins. I think what is similar in both of the formulas is that all of the nutrients are bioavailable. So folate, not folic acid, or methylfolate, not folic acid, being like bioavailable forms of B vitamins that people could take. We have vitamin D in both formulas, which is crucial. And I think, like, just a note on folate, it's a big one for us because a lot of prenatals on the market have folic acid, which 50% of the population cannot metabolize because they have mutation called MTHFR, a gene variant. And so we have a bioavailable form in our men and women's prenatal. And then in our Egg Quality Plus is our product that is kind of similar to the men's in the sense that it has these nutrients that support mitochondria. But that one is not in our prenatal because you have to stop. You cannot take it when you're pregnant because there is not enough research on CoQ10, NAC, and all these other nutrients when it comes to pregnancy. So that's why it's almost like we have our men's formula that supports mitochondria and is a multivitamin for men. And then we have our women's prenatal, which is like a multi for women and a prenatal. And then separately, we have the mitochondrial support for women.
Okay. Yeah. And that's a good point to note too, as far as what type of vitamins and nutrients, because there's there's synthetic types and then there's, they take it from different sources. So what should someone avoid when choosing a prenatal? I feel like that's not really talked about. Like, as you know, if you're looking at the supplement and you're like, I shouldn't actually take this.
One thing I learned during this process and was almost as important as what's in it is what's not in it. And sometimes if you turn the label and you see the other ingredients outside of the supplementation, there is additives, fillers, colors, binders. We were floored when we surveyed hundreds of prenatals with this stuff in it that's toxic, not only for your health, but like you definitely don't want to take it while you're trying to conceive. And so because supplementation is not regulated by the FDA, it's so important for you to do the research and pick a brand, one, that is free of excipients like WeNatal is, but also third-party tested. And that is to ensure that the claims they're making on that label is actually what you're getting, and it's free of heavy metals, toxins, and stuff you don't want in it. So having a third-party testing report, we're very open with ours. When consumers ask, we email it to them immediately. But if you have a brand that doesn't do it or is hesitant about sending you the report, I'd say it's a major red flag. So outside of reading, the supplementation part, it's important to know that you don't want anything extra in there and you want them to be integrity in the product, which comes with third-party testing.
No, great point. I think a lot of people just overlook that part.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, all the fillers, all the dyes. I've seen silicone dioxide and all these titanium dioxide and all these this stuff in it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh,
This should not be. Yeah. It's scary. And you kind of have to do your own research and be your own advocate. And so knowing what brands stand for and to the ingredients, to the point of the ingredients, making sure they're bioavailable. So that means that everyone could readily absorb them versus the synthetic forms. And
making sure that it's comprehensive. Our women's prenatal has 24 key nutrients and we wouldn't leave one nutrient out. And then you have other brands out there that have like 12 nutrients. And when people tell us they take that prenatal, we're like, oh my God, we're like worried. So I think it's very important to make make sure that your prenatal is comprehensive, bioavailable, clean, and does third-party testing.
Yeah. And also, I feel like there's a lot of brands out there that claim they have all the nutrients, but it's so small. It's like, 10 milligrams, like, what is that going to do? You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's actually, that's kind of why we came out with a women's prenatal. Like Ronit mentioned, our first concept was the men's because no one was speaking to the men's prenatal. And we thought the world actually didn't need another prenatal until we saw what was out there. And we saw that vast majority of them overpromise and underdeliver. There was a lot of fancy marketing with really nothing behind it. And so that's when we reinvented the game really completely for both partners.
Well, I feel like both of you obviously have amazing stories and inspirational stories for those that are trying to conceive and, maybe just are a little bit discouraged. What is the most fulfilling part of what you do?
I think for me specifically, it's every testimonial, every positive pregnancy test. When we get pictures and testimonials from our consumers that said, I've tried everything and then I found WeNatal and now we're having a healthy baby girl or baby boy. I think being able to really impact people's lives and give them optimism in a very stressful, overwhelming fertility space has been my why. And every one of those reviews, every testimonial really truly lights us up for what else can we do to help our community.
And I think just kind of along the same lines as Vida, I want to share, you could see this, but Vida, but your audience can't because we're not on video, but somebody sent us a text message last night. Sorry for the late text, but this is worth it. And it's his little WeNatal baby. And we get so many beautiful WeNatal babies and people send us their birth announcements literally from the hospital. And it is the most amazing thing. And actually, this week I told you we had our product launch, the Egg Quality Plus product launch, and it was at my brother's restaurant, Safi's. And after the event, Vida and I just kind of went to actually sit down and eat because we didn't eat at our event. And this woman comes up to us with her 5-month-old baby and she says, "This is a WeNatal baby." And I was like, what do you mean? How do you? And she's like, yeah, we were struggling and we heard about you and my husband had his sperm issues and he took WeNatal and this is our WeNatal baby. He's 5 weeks old. So it's also so crazy that people recognize us and they show us their WeNatal babies and it's really, really amazing.
Oh, I love that. Well, for anyone curious, where can they find WeNatal and where can they find you on social and all that good stuff?
So on social, we're at we_natal. They can find lots of content on there. Our blog is blog.wenatal.com. We post 1 or 2 blogs every week about literally every topic under the sun. We have a ton of experts writing these blogs. And then our website is wenatal.com. They can find us on there and feel free to DM us, reach out to us. We're always here to support, answer questions. And we're wishing all your listeners luck and health on their fertility journeys.
Thank you so much for coming on, both of you. It's been such a pleasure, and you guys are always welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To check out more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com, and to email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.